welcome back to the Acid Trash Jamboree and to another instalment of the Cassette Curiosities mini-series. Seeing as it's Christmas, I thought I'd pull out this rarity from Germany's Ebuse Music, 1992's The X-Mas-Compilation, a double tape set released in an oversized plastic box with a nice lo-fi photocopied booklet. Now, most probably the main reason that people know about this comp is because it features a whopping 8 contributions by UK underground legend Richard Youngs. And yeah, it was certainly the reason that I wanted to track it down. If you're unfamiliar with Richard Youngs, in a nutshell, he's been active on the DIY and experimental scene since the 80s, releasing music in just about every conceivable style, from tender singer-songwriter and a cappella folk music to full-on noise and indescribable sonic abstraction. Needless to say, but he's most definitely on the long list of acid trash heroes, and I fully intend on doing a series of videos dedicated to his music at some point. But back to the X-Mas-Compilation, which also covers a multitude of styles over the course of its 2-hour runtime, opening with a couple of slices of homespun, industrial-tinged synth pop from Didi and Le Darpa Mott, respectively, which, in truth, sound pretty dated and clunky 30-odd years down the line, but for me at least, they still possess a certain amount of naive charm. The Richard Youngs segment that follows is entitled Festival of Carols, after the semi-mythical, private cassette that the tracks were drawn from. We don't get the entire tape here. Yeah, it would seem that the original has more songs on it. Speaking of which, there was talk a good while back about a label affiliated with the now defunct mail-order shop Volcanic Tongue doing a full reissue, but unfortunately it never came to pass. Anyways, the carols themselves are a mixture of well-known efforts like I Saw 3 Ships and The Holly and the Ivy, plus slightly more obscure choices like The Boar's Head, which Steel Eye Span also did a version of, and something called There Is a Path. This last one is probably my favourite of his contributions, though I can't seem to find any other info on it. So there's a chance that it's either a Youngs original, or perhaps a traditional tune from another country which has been translated into English. Musically, they range from the clumpy fuzz rock sound which Youngs fanatics will recognise from contemporaneous albums like Lake and Ceausescu, to altogether more delicate and genteel settings which bring to mind that whole world of 70s private press folk, whilst a couple of the tunes sound like neo-medievalist Griffin after a few too many tankards of mulled wine. So cool stuff on the whole, and well worth a listen if you cherish the very earliest Youngs material like I do. Though in terms of his vast discography, they're just a drop in the ocean, as we'll get onto sometime in the future. After Youngs, Schmerz der Welten offer up a decent bit of minimal synth music entitled Alle Jahre Wieder, very much in the tradition of fellow countrymen Kraftwerk or even some of Konrad Schnitzler's poppier, song-based stuff. The A-side then closing out with a droning, free folk reimagining of Amazing Grace by the wonderfully monikered Tall Bald Grandfathers, a short-lived duo project from the USA. Unfortunately, the B-side is weighted mostly towards silly novelty tunes. Again, many of which are homespun, Casio keyboard efforts, though they're 10 times more annoying than the stuff that opens the comp. So yeah, there's not much that I actually want to discuss on this side, save for a couple of gems hidden amongst the crud, namely the pleasant ambient miniature from Steve Hartwell and Steve Zeri's Death Goes East project, and the chunk of fuzzy, lo-fi punk rock from Doves Under Chairwalk. Otherwise, yeah, this is all pretty toe-curling stuff. Thankfully, Side C has a lot more going for it, opening with a multi-section mini-epic from a project named B.O.P., which veers from moody, minimal synth pop to more of that fuzzed-out, bedroom punk rock, whilst the Italian plunderphonic project DJM juxtaposes corny, early 90s rap beats and snatches of naff Christmas songs against samples ripped directly from current 93 classics like Black Flowers Please and Happy Birthday Pigface Christus. A pretty amusing idea to begin with, though at 7 minutes, the track does run out of steam about halfway through. Alongside the quirky post-punk waltz from Cult Goes Culture, my favourite on this side is probably the piece from Telepherique, a very cool sound collage with peaceful synth textures floating around industrial clanging and assorted sounds of civil unrest. Telepherique is one of those projects that's released tons of stuff and whose name I've spotted all over the place. As far as I'm aware, though, I don't own anything else by them. But on the strength of this track, I'll be checking out more of their stuff ASAP. The concluding side opens with another familiar name, the French project Klimperei, who offer up a version of Silent Night that's as sinister as it is whimsical and childlike. Quickly followed by a nice sliver of Steve Reich-styled systems music from the Dead Goldfish Ensemble, which was another project linked to UK artist Steve Hartwell. Along the same lines as Telepherique, DMADT and Major Arna both provide us with excellent sound collages, chock full of frazzled, noisy synth work, overlapping spoken voices in multiple languages, and militaristic drum machine beats. Elsewhere, Le Darpa Mott crops up again, this time giving us a piece that wraps chirpy, RPG soundtrack music around a stretch of cheesy synth funk, whilst the Nut Bolts Formation's contribution is a weird, echo-heavy deconstruction of the Velvet Underground and Nico classic, All Tomorrow's Parties. Then, as we approach the finish line, DJM gives us a plunderphonic effort that's a touch more serious than his earlier offering, with assorted movie, TV and world music fragments smashing into each other with reckless abandon. So a pretty decent collection on the whole, which provides a cool snapshot of the bustling but still extremely obscure 90s experimental cassette scene. Yeah, as I alluded to earlier, I'm unfamiliar with the vast majority of the acts on this comp. And yeah, a quick glance at their Discogs entries brings to light a dizzying labyrinth of other projects, labels and releases that they were involved with, which in truth just about brought me out in a cold sweat. Thankfully, for the sake of my sanity and bank balance, this stuff rarely, if ever, comes up for sale, which is just as well. Okay, before I finish, it's not a cassette, but I also want to say a few words about a different underground Christmas comp, a Glasgow Wassail, a limited edition CDR released by Sonic Oyster Records back in December 2007. This was curated by label boss Andrew Paine, a friend and frequent collaborator of Richard Young's. So yeah, a few of the Festival of Carols tunes crop up here too. 3 that were also included on the X-Mas-Compilation, plus the exclusive Angels from the Realms. Paine and Young's also team up for the excellent psychedelic campfire folk of Opener, Corner of the Season, whilst Young's then baby son, Sorley, weighs in with some thoroughly weird keyboard noodling entitled Christmas Energy. Other than that, there's a clutch of tracks from the now retired Alistair Crosbie, ranging from a wimpy, acoustic reading of Frosty the Snowman to an altogether more convincing drone meditation on God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen, as well as assorted free improv freakery from the aforementioned Volcanic Tongue crew, namely some sax and drums chaos from Alex Nielsen and David Keenan's tight meat duo, plus an awesome pedal steel noise shred fest from Keenan's wife Heather Lee, formerly of free folk legends Charalambides. So yeah, if you like obscure music and you're sick of Mariah Carey and all the other garbage that gets played to death around this time of year, then why not check out these two comps if you can find them? Anyways, unless I decide to cram one more video in, that's most probably it for this year. A massive thanks to all recent watchers and subscribers. I hope you've enjoyed the content. Keep your eyes peeled for even more stuff about weirdo music and movies in the new year and beyond. Until then, take it easy, and I'll catch you again soon on the Acid Trash Jamboree.